I'm here with a college counselor, Mrs. Motta, and we're here to talk about things students should look out for as they fill out their financial aid applications. Nice to have you here, Mrs. Motta. Can you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a college counselor here at Oaks Christian School, and I grew up mainly in the Midwest and went to a high school in the suburbs of Chicago, and then went to a private Christian college in West Michigan called Calvin University and studied social work. And the whole college process was very similar to what it is now, although I think more students have decided to apply to a longer list of colleges. I actually only applied to one school and love that. But essentially the financial aid process was, I would say, in some ways complicated and took a lot of diligent work to search how to best supplement the cost. I was sent to college without any financial support from my family, and this was a little daunting at first and burdensome, but in the entire process, as I worked with the financial aid office at my school, I was able to understand the total cost, what loans the government was willing to give me, what grants I qualified for from the government, and then in addition to that, what grants and scholarships I received from my university. So that's pretty much how I supplemented the total cost. I did graduate with some education loans and debt, but I was pretty consistent and committed to being debt-free before I turned 30. So I just had to calculate exactly how much I was going to pay off every month, and did that and was able to pay off all of my loans within 8 years or so. And typically students will account for maybe 10 years plus. So I was very happy about that. But I can speak to a bit more of some of the pitfalls that students can avoid and common mistakes that families may make when they apply for financial aid or scholarships. And one of the more simple tasks that can be done now, no matter what grade you're in, but typically you want to start sophomore or junior year just to get a better sense of the cost of college and understanding that tuition will most likely increase 2 to 6% from that current cost of tuition as you're looking on their website or their brochures. So being aware of that, that the cost of tuition will increase year over year, and taking a look at the average financial aid package, and that is all going to be based upon a student's family's income. So that will fluctuate. So the 50th middle part of students who are applying and admitted, they are receiving some form of financial aid from that university, and it may be 50% of what the total cost is, or it might be 40% or more, but that is all dependent on your family's income. So it's very important to understand the implication of that. Another piece to understanding some of the common mistakes, I think students maybe underestimate the scholarship application process. So once you've submitted your application to that college, you want to be very vigilant to check emails and any invitations for additional scholarship opportunities. Every college will have a different system. Some colleges will flag certain applicants based off of their GPA or activities or leadership positions or accomplishments and invite you to an interview for, it could range from a full tuition scholarship to a $10,000 scholarship or a few $100s. And that is dependent on the endowment that college has. And so checking on emails and making sure you're responding to any phone calls or text messages from the admission office, and particular to the financial aid office, will always be helpful. I think parents and students also maybe forget or feel intimidated by setting up a separate meeting and a phone call with the financial aid office. So once a student is admitted, I'd say one of the first or second things you want to do before you decide on if you want to go to that college is to set up a meeting and a conversation with the financial aid office. So every college has its own financial aid director, advisors, counselors, who will help each individual family understand the implication of their loans, grants, any scholarships that are available, and the total cost of attending their institution. So making sure that you're staying up to date and informed on any communications coming from your college and setting up that appointment and meeting to talk to a financial aid officer will always help. It will not hurt. I know sometimes families feel unsure if they're in a position where maybe cost is a huge factor, if that will affect a student's admissibility. There are only a handful of schools that are need aware, so that's a term that admissions offices will use, where they take into consideration the ability for a student, the student to be able to pay for tuition, to take that into account in their admission decision. Most colleges will be need blind, and that's the term that you want to ask if you're talking to an admission officer. Are you need aware or need blind when it comes to looking at the financial ability to pay for that particular school?
Definitely, I agree. It's all about being proactive and actively looking for those opportunities. And as a college counselor, you probably see people apply for their financial aid. How much of their college application and financial application are able to be well connected?
Yeah, so I would say for the most part, when you're applying to public universities, it's pretty cut and dry. Because public serving institutions are going to admit students, and then basically what you see in terms of their total cost of attendance is going to be just around what you'll pay depending on your FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. And that's a separate form created by the government, and the government is basically calculating your parents' financial background. So that's the income, tax return, all of that, and assets, to make a better assessment of what your family can afford. And each college will take that form, take the FAFSA, and they will curate their own financial aid packet. So in the application process itself, the college application process itself, you will signify if you plan to apply for financial aid or not. And sometimes students think, oh, is merit scholarship the same thing as financial aid? It is not. The terminology may be a little confusing. Merit scholarships are completely based off of a student's academic rapport, so your GPA and or test score, depending on the school. The financial aid means you are going to be submitting the FAFSA, and this indicates to that college to expect your FAFSA to be sent to them, so their financial aid office can work on creating a financial aid packet. So that's the only way that it's connected in terms of your college application and then the FAFSA. And the FAFSA is a separate form that you have to fill out, like I mentioned, and it's free. A student will have to fill it out with their parents. And there's also an additional form called the CSS profile. And this is a separate application created by a company called College Board. They also own SAT and AP. And this is a separate form that maybe gathers up a little bit more detail than the FAFSA. And there's about 115 schools that require the CSS profile if you are applying for financial aid. So you can go on Google today and type in CSS profile partnering schools and figure out which colleges are requiring the CSS profile in addition to the FAFSA to create a financial aid packet for a student who's applying for financial aid at that school.
Thank you so much for this information. It's definitely very helpful. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you all next time.